Lobster Magnet. Lobster's a 10 item, don't you grab it. Welcome to Lobster Magnets Review, the channel, the review. I'm here with my buddy Zavul.
Evening, folks.
And his mic has decided to betray him, so his audio will be a little bit shittier than usual. We'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah, I'm looking through the FAQ, and I still don't see anything like my problem, which, of course, I'm not surprised by.
There's always the Samsung tech support. Whatchamacallit. If only we were all Ricks, but maybe we can't all be Ricks. And Goro Gregoro.
Yo, that's me.
And Dan the Garbage Man, which he's sticking with.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez. So, let me just start off by saying that this episode was fucking amazing. Like, you know, if you're going to put it together like a top 10, like, best episodes of Rick and Morty, this would probably be, like, somewhere mid to high tier on the list. Like, oh my, you know, it's been a great season, but, like, this was, like, heads and tails above, like, everything else. It was just fucking perfect.
Yeah, I was fucking impressed. I'll be honest, I don't have to wait to the end. This basically gets, like, a 10 out of 10 for me.
It was like, yeah, we are maybe the absolute latest Rick and Morty, and probably the less technically, you know, impressive. But you know, we are the last source that you will have to marvel at this episode. And what probably is like the most amazing thing is the fact that, you know, within sitcom writing, there are like different tiers. Like the basic bitch is like, oh, you have like maybe one people in a room with one storyline. And that's your basic setup. You know, the more sophisticated and common setup is like you'll have an A and a B storyline. While, whatchamacallit, this one does the, you know, the Seinfeld, you know, 4-person triumvirate where we get not one, not two, not three, but 4 different interlocking, interrelated stories that, you know, all wind around each other and, you know, kind of like intersect to create something greater than each individual part.
Oh, well said. Definitely true.
Oh, man.
But, like, there's so much to dissect from this episode. I don't even know where to begin. It's just, like, this episode shows, like, there's, like, some heavy shit that they're, like, putting on the table with this episode. It's like,
yeah, this was painfully topical.
The class divide between the Ricks and the Mortys, and that the system will ultimately beat you down no matter what. And even if you fight against the system will find a way to like commodify that and sell you the visions of your victory as a snack that you can buy. It's almost like, God, how does he do
I would
it?
buy that snack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, like, have you guys, are you all familiar
Simple
with
Rick? Cookies? Yeah.
I want that brief taste of freedom by, you know,
well,
in my taste buds.
Brief taste of transcending the grand delusion.
Like, have you ever seen that, like, that infamous Pepsi commercial with Kendall Jenner?
No.
Oh, come on, you guys are terrible. I hate you all. So, like a couple of months ago, there was this controversial Pepsi commercial where basically they're like, you know, all these sort of like black lives. Yeah, that one. Where there's like all these activists. They're all so cool and hip. And then there's the police cars. And then Kendall Jenner comes out and she's like, you know, we can stop, you know, protests and dividing with Pepsi.
I'm fucking terrible. I don't know
Really?
fucking celebrity.
So why was that controversial again?
Because it was.
Fucking damn it, Craig.
Like, she offered the cops a Pepsi and...
But I'm pissed too. Yes, motherfucker.
What was controversial about that again?
I hate you.
It's pretty tasteless to like try and co-opt like a social movement and then think that like some corporate product could somehow like bridge the class divide or the socioeconomic.
But wasn't it like a generic social movement kind of?
Okay, Greg, let me.
It trivializes the issue, dude.
Okay?
That's all you need to do.
Imagine in the fucking wake of Charlottesville and some poor fuck getting run over by a goddamn car. Okay, Coke decided to make a commercial, and all of a sudden, this like
Okay,
poor
that
Jewish guy with the yarmulke like runs out and like
that did not happen.
Okay, does that fucking break it down for you, motherfucker?
I'm sorry, that did not happen yet. Like, no one has commercialized over
That's
Charlottesville.
pretty much what the equivalent of the Pepsi commercial is.
Yeah, that is basically what they were doing with the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay, that's basically where that went. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Speaking of that kind of bullshit, I fucking
It just looked
love
like generic
the,
protesting to me. Like they
Cop Morty was amazing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was basically that was an amazing depiction of internalized racism. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Same story. Morty's
Oh
killing Morty.
jeez.
I do fucking love the fact that they had their own fucking take on like
Just like street talk, or like, you know.
yeah like this was like so obviously their take on like African American vernacular or something like that, where
Yeah.
just like and just like you're like internalized racist cop going like, oh geez guys, like just trying to relate when you were obviously just hate these people so much, even though you happen to be a Morty yourself, and it's just like, oh Jesus, this is just painful to watch.
Well, there was also that, and the fact that it was like, the classic Training Day riff.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
that was
totally
Training Day.
like Training Day. That whole story arc with like Rick and the Morty.
Well, that's what Rick and Morty does so well, is it like takes like storylines we've seen a billion times before, because like we've got the Training Day arc, we've got the sort of Manchurian Candidate with like, the evil Morty. Spoiler alerts, but at this point you probably shouldn't be spoiler alert considering how much fan art and tributes there are.
I mean, we're doing a
Morty.
fucking review on the episode. People should be spoiled about the episode that we're reviewing.
Do you think
right?
that's the same Evil Morty from the other seasons?
I mean,
It has to be.
That's my assumption.
They have that little scene where they have at the end where they show the like little photos and they have him with the little eye receptor thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
the eye patch.
I would have assumed that even if they hadn't done the reveal, like that was my assumption, and just had that confirmed. But
The
you
only
missed-
reason I wouldn't assume that necessarily might be because this Morty had a lot of charisma, whereas that Morty didn't really talk. So like we didn't know what he's like.
Well, you didn't really get a
He's
personality.
trying to hide. Like,
Yeah.
he was typically hiding behind his
Evil Rick.
brainwashed and like heavily modified Rick.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as he lost that and decided to like go for something else, all of a sudden you see the like brilliant, diabolical bastard that is more than willing to exploit literally everyone around him. But hey, you also missed the Stand By Me reference.
Oh yeah, of course the Stand By Me storyline.
Okay, yeah. What was that storyline based around? I mean, there were some references to Stand By Me, but I feel like there was referencing something else too. Like, especially where the kid like jumped into the well, like at the end. He's like, I'm gonna throw in something, but I don't know if it's any valuable. He just like jumps into the well. It's so sad.
It was a loose reference, but yeah, I don't think that was referencing anything. Just like the campfire scene and then being chased away by some asshole with a shotgun and stuff. I half expected there to be like a train dodging scene.
I like the Snape Rick because Alan Rickman.
Jesus Christ! Right
Wait, was that his name? His name was Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman's the actor who played him.
Yeah, I just got that. Fuck.
Oh shit! That's such a great but terrible pun.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense. Oh,
I was wondering why.
Treasure trove.
I was wondering, it's like, why the like weird 1800s British schoolmaster? What the fuck is? Why are you mashing that in there? I guess because there has to be like a weird schoolmaster. Oh, okay. Now I get
you didn't
it.
get the fact that it was
Now
like
I
supposed
get
to be like Snape in like a little Morty classroom.
No. I guess because I've been fucking listening to like a stupid amount of Charles fucking Dickens because I have nothing better to do at work. It's like, oh, it's just a classic 1800s version of Rick. No. Okay, now I get it. Fucking Harry Potter. Maybe if they'd given him a wand or something.
Did you guys catch the reference from when they had like the 3 gang Mortys, and they've got like in the basement a Rick that looks like a homeless heroin addict making up the
portal gun fluid?
Yeah. They're talking about like him licking their balls, and that's a reference to the original like
What, Menace to Society?
No. That was the Lick My Balls is a reference to the original cartoon that Justin Roiland.
Oh, the original unofficial whatchamacallit, Adventures of Rick and Marty.
Doc and Marty. That was before he even changed it for the legal shit. Yeah.
Wait, Dan Harmon made like that one too?
Dan Harmon.
Justin Roiland made it as part of like Channel 101. It was like one of his like old pilots from back in the day before Dan Harmon was like, comedy writing god, the mad comedy writing god, and he was just like, up and coming. He did this thing called Channel 101 where he, they would do these like weird skits and animated things, and Justin Roiland was like the big collaborator in the animated things. So he did this House of Cosby's, which got a cease and desist, and the inspiration of Rick and Morty is this short called, the unofficial unlicensed, Adventures of Doc and Marty. And literally, they have the scene where, like, the little proto Mortys, like, we gotta go back in time. You gotta lick my balls. It's working. We're going back in time. Gotta lick them faster, Marty. So here we have a callback to. I'd recommend like the further you go down the Rick and Morty rabbit hole, the more interesting like the Justin Roiland like pilots and.
You'll have to link that to me. I can't even comprehend what you were just talking about.
What is there not to comprehend? It's like literally like a little parody version of like Back to the Future with like Doc and Marty.
Was it a cartoon or?
Yes.
It was a really low budget shitty cartoon.
It's a fucking goddamn pilot episode, basically.
It's like a little animated short.
I mean, it had a different name, but it was basically just the pilot episode. That is all you're dealing with.
No, I wouldn't even say it's like a super ghetto pilot.
Yeah, yeah.
As proto you can get, but the basic archetypes of Rick and Morty are there.
Oh, jeez.
Jesus Christ, motherfucker.
So, just out of curiosity, though, out of all the storylines, the Factory storyline, Training Day Morty, Stand By Me, and of course the Evil Morty, which is your favorite one out of the 4 interlocking plots that we got in this episode?
I like the Atlantis plot.
Some of that mermaid puss, yeah.
I love it how like always like every time there's like a standard Rick and Morty adventure, that's always like the thing that they don't pursue. That's always just sort of like the red herring before they like get into whatever the real thing about the episode is.
Yeah.
Atlantis?
Yeah, just like Atlantis.
I forgot about that. I don't remember that.
That was the beginning of the episode where Rick and Morty were
No. Yeah. I know in this one, but like, are you saying in other episodes they went to Atlantis?
No. Sometimes they'll have like a little misdirection where like you think the episode is about like this sort of adventure thing, then it like veers off into something completely different.
Well, I like how they actually announce that it's a different episode. Like in this one, they like there's a little screenshot where it straight up says that this is not a regular Rick and Morty adventure, and then there's another one like sometimes Rick just calls out the episode like what it is.
Yeah, and they've done that a couple times, especially with the interdimensional cable episode.
Yeah. Supposedly, we're getting another interdimensional cable style episode next week with the time tortoise.
I kind of just want them to expand more on the Citadel universe, like this whole society of Ricks and Mortys. Like that was just like so much fun to like dive deep in.
I mean, it's basically just parallel to our own. That's kind of the point. Is they've sold out their identity for a sense of security, and so, despite the fact that they despise society and all of the horrors it kind of brings, I mean, they basically just set up something that looks exactly like ours, but, you know, with flying cars.
Yeah. It's so
well, that's
poetic.
what makes, you know, C-137, you know, the rickiest of the Rick-alls. Even, like, you know, he hates everything, including himself, so much that even a society made it up of himself. You know, he'd say, fuck that.
It's just
and
so
we see
much...
all the reasons why he says,
I mean,
fuck that.
There really isn't a huge need to dig that deep, because it's basically just a parallel of our own society. Everyone is unhappy except the rich, and politicians fuck everyone over.
Oh my god!
Not to mention the fact that, like, you know, even if you think you do get ahead, you know, you get co-opted in the system through some way.
Yeah. Although, holy shit, I fucking love the Willy Wonka Rick.
Okay,
Jesus Christ.
Why was that your favorite?
Jesus Christ, what the fuck do you think it was my fucking favorite?
That guy is a genius. Is like...
fucking Willy Wonka. It's fucking Rick dressed as Willy Wonka. It's like the weird cross fucking genre bullshit I didn't know I fucking needed in my life until he showed up. All I fucking need is for him to start singing a goddamn song in the middle of a goddamn candy factory with a bunch of fucking Oompa Loompa Morty backup singers.
Well, I think that they also did some foreshadowing in this episode about, I mean, basically Rick's like, I don't have to worry about the council anymore. The council's dead. And now it's very clear that he now has to worry about this new dictatorship.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's obviously, well, Rick and Morty always has this like weird thing of like soft continuity where like nothing really quite matters, but like then Dan Harmon, when he feels like it, he does it very gracefully, which is really interesting compared to like something like South Park, which is experimented with serialization, but with limited success, where like sometimes they have like you know, they come out with like a really, really good episode that's really cool and timely. A lot of the other time, though, they, you know, kind of write themselves into a corner. It's like, oh, fuck, we can't do it. Versus like something Rick and Morty, where most of the time there really isn't much continuity, but occasionally you get like story threads or bigger payoffs. And, you know, this, obviously with a Citadel and Evil Morty, you know, becoming like the closest thing the series has to like a worthy supervillain. You know, I don't think we're going to see it this season, but who knows? Maybe like season 4 or 5. Because like whenever you see like interviews about Justin Roiland or Dan Harmon, they talking about Evil Morty, it's not like, oh yeah, Evil Morty's going to like come. They're just sort of like, yeah, he'll appear sometime. I don't know when. Some point soon.
Yeah, but I think we're going to get more because like as you get to the finale, usually the finale's got something that has a lot of continuity.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it would be amazing if, like, the 10th episode is just sort of, like, the SEAL Team Rick or the Evil Morty. Like, for some reason, you know, Evil Morty wants it out for Rick, or who knows, maybe we'll get some weird backstory that he was the original, you know, C-137's Morty until our Morty replaced him.
I think that will probably happen because Morty, remember in his campaign, he's, like, saying... I think the real enemy is like, you know, the people who don't believe that all Ricks and Mortys can't coexist, or you know, Rick and Mortys who are against the Citadel, and he's like, well, guess what? You're outnumbered. So I think his whole campaign slogan is like a signal saying if you're against the Citadel, you're gonna have a problem with Evil Morty.
Well, yeah, there's that, but you also specifically they ask him the question, "Who is your Rick?" and he goes, "All Ricks are my Rick." So it's like very clear that like he's not willing to divulge his past, which might relate in some way.
No, I think that was like him being like a little bit shady. I don't know if that was like foreshadowing to anything.
I mean, he obviously doesn't want to like give anyone something they can latch on to, prove or disprove, and then like. Have a bunch of photos of that time he kidnapped like a fuck ton of Mortys, killed a bunch of Ricks, and then strapped them to like a torture machine.
Sure, but there are a lot of opportunities where it could be foreshadowing.
Yeah, like what? I'm not sure that our main character Rick is Evil Morty's original.
Oh
Rick.
no.
It's just because like he literally had him like strapped to a fucking gurney at one point. It's like if that was his original Rick and his entire purpose was like revenge, like he could have just like stabbed him in the dick a few times and let him bleed out on the table.
Or also, I think that his original, or if that was his Rick would have recognized him and understood, not seen through the.
Yeah.
He would have seen through the eye patch and the
facade.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is, you remember that continuity of Ricks, where it's like the most evil Ricks and the least evil Ricks back and forth in that episode?
Mm-hmm.
My guess is he's probably on that like far end of the evil spectrum. Just like
It's like D&D. Rating D&D evil.
no, his original Rick probably had a fucking goatee or something.
It's like, is he lawful evil or neutral evil?
Well, no,
Or
there's a
chaotic
famous
evil?
episode of South Park. Or no, it's
Well,
not
if
South
we're going
Park.
by D&D, then our Rick C-137 would be chaotic evil, and their Morty would be lawful evil. I think.
I would call
because
him
he's using
chaotic.
the power of the.
I call him chaotic neutral. He's like
Oh, yeah.
right in the middle of that spectrum, and
Yeah.
he's-
I don't know. He chose Noob over Morty.
Yeah,
I-
I mean,
I'd
Drunk
still-
Rick does have way fewer morals, but if you look at it, he does good things on occasion, and sometimes for no reason other than it entertains him to do so, or
Yeah, like letting what's her name live. You know, the last of the superhero troop.
Vindicators.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
he
he does
occasionally
both.
does nice things.
I mean, he does both,
Yeah.
and he is heavy on the chaotic side of thing, but kind of smack in the middle for good and evil. Like,
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, because when they did the thing where they separate their toxic side from themselves, you got to see
Yeah.
exactly how much part of him was evil and how much of him,
yeah,
was not.
Yeah, and that does bring it, why Rick worked so well as a character, and that, one of the trickiest things to do is have an unlikable, likable character. Characters in the mold of, like, Cartman, Archer, and usually, like, the fun of having an unlikable, likable character is that, like, they get to say things that, most other people couldn't get away with,
Yeah.
which is why it's, so cathartic to see them, have their fun adventures. But ultimately, you have to give them a few redeeming qualities, like
Right. Yep.
Walt's incredible pride and egotism is compensated for his genuine love and affection for his family, despite the fact his pride wound up ultimately poisoning that to the point where he's separated from his family.
Yeah.
Archer is occasionally a good spy, despite the fact he's a philandering, drunken dick most of the time.
he has limits. I think that's the key. Is he does have like specific hard limits that he won't pass. Like, he's a philandering piece of shit. No children. No, that's sick and twisted. That's not happening. Kind of thing. Where it's like there are specific lines they draw, and you see that with Rick too,
Yeah.
where it's like he sees this Citadel full of like tortured Mortys. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, I fucked around with this on paper, but I probably only need a couple in a car battery, but I never actually do it. That's fucked up.
Or the purge thing where you kind of get sick and tired of the bloodshed. It's like, are you good? I'm kind of done out of here.
I love how, on
Yeah.
the other hand, Morty is always surprising us with how dark he can get whenever you let him run loose. Like, he really enjoyed that purge, and I love the, was it Wolf of Wall Street, Morty?
Jesus. Yeah.
I think this season, the entire season, is leading up to trying to build up Morty as a smarter character, more and more. He's been able to one up Rick several times throughout this whole season.
Not quite, but he both him and Summer have I wouldn't say they're smart, but they're very Rick savvy in terms of they know what to expect from him.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say they're crafty. they might not be as smart as Rick, but sometimes they can grab a hold of something that Rick either ignored because of hubris or just doesn't expect, again, usually because of fucking hubris.
But remember the times, okay, Morty disarming the drunken neutrino bombs, and he's like, too many times, Rick, I've disabled these too many times. And, when he, manipulated Rick to take his dad on an adventure just so he can get away from all the crazy bullshit Rick brings sometimes and, have a vacation from that. He's manipulating sort of things on a sideline. He has, a good, feel of, how to, deal with Rick in a lot of situations. It makes him feel like he's developing into a smart character.
No, but Morty's still not going to be doing super science. He's just knows how to manage Rick. And that was the whole point of that, really the Vindicator episode.
I don't know if I would consider him smart so much as he's not stupid. You spend enough time around somebody who's that fucking unstable, and you start learning what their triggers are, just so you can sidestep that shit or work around it because you don't want to die.
Exactly. And I don't know. I thought this was a great way to lead up to Evil Morty in this episode, in this particular episode, because of
that whole thing was great with where he's evil speech, but campaigns are for speeches. Now is the time for action.
He's has so much charisma and knows how to navigate all the Ricks, all the other Mortys, say exactly what they want to hear. I think that's such a great way to lead up to, everything that's happened so far. To a Morty that's super capable of navigating all the Ricks and all the Mortys combined.
Which I think makes him a cool arch nemesis for our Rick. I think.
Exactly. That because Rick would hate nothing more than to be outsmarted by a Morty and completely have it.
Yeah.
Maybe a Jerry would be the worst because he always flips out when Jerry.
Oh God. Yeah. I think
Jerry?
that would be the point where.
Oh God.
That would be the point where he goes full on evil and just destroys the world.
My God.
You think you're so much smarter than me? You think you won? Well, fine.
Oh my God. Can you imagine, that'd be the next step, to be able to one-up Evil Morty, it would just have, Evil Jerry. It would be, the most batshit crazy kind of
Season
evil
9, Evil Jerry steps out of the shadows and he's eating Szechuan sauce.
What I think would be fucking amazing, what I think Evil Morty is such a great nemesis for our Rick is, Rick just gives literally no fucks about any kind of social skills and just completely shoves aside any indication or suggestion that he work with other people. And so he's technically brilliant. He's an insanely intelligent person, but is basically emotionally backwards. Whereas our Morty is, he might not be smart like Rick, but in terms of emotional intelligence, you basically have polar opposites.
Yeah, definitely.
And so those two are basically going to end up going head to head with completely different pathways to power and operating. So Rick is your solo tech master, just capable of building anything, and Morty is basically just going to be your
Stalin.
Yeah, he's basically going to be the one that just throws waves and waves of people at you without any regard for their safety. He's not going to be able to build anything, but fuck if that matters.
Yeah. And, the smartest thing is, the Evil Morty could probably outsmart Rick. He can't outbuild him, but he can, probably trap him. Although I don't think Dan Harmon, like, obviously, you'd think that, like, episode 10 is going to end with, like, the Citadel of Rick's invading, like, C-127 because they want something from our Rick and Morty, but I feel like that would be too much of a repeat of, like, all the stuff with the Galactic Federation and the, end of season 2 and beginning of season 3. And Dan Harmon doesn't like to repeat himself and, and do, like, hacky reprisals of shit he's already done unless there's, like, some new twist he can bring to it.
Honestly, what I could...
Well, didn't you just say he was making another TV episode where, like...
Honestly, what I could see happen, and yeah, I mean, that at least doesn't get old because it's just fucking improv.
Yeah, just Justin Roiland, like, making, whatever weird thing comes to his mind, and then you usually have, like, an A-plot that, like, intertwines with all the little miniature segments, and those have consistently been pretty fucking good.
I mean, honestly, the way I could see this working out is it goes the other way around, whereas before the Federation has always gone after Rick, this time I see it be going the other way around, because if there's one thing Rick can't fucking stand, it's a tyrant who thinks they can tell everyone what to do.
Yeah.
And
sure.
Oh, maybe Rick has to rebuild the Federation to stop the Citadel of Rex or something.
Basically what I see is, like, okay, so the Federation is in shambles.
Rick created the power vacuum.
Right. That is then going to be filled by basically the council, well, not the Council of Ricks, the Dictator Morty, as this, like, this world of Ricks and Mortys just expands into this power vacuum. And, again, Rick hates himself. And if there's one thing he can't fucking stand, it's people telling other people what to do.
And that's what ultimately sets him to, like, bring down the Council of Ricks, or the new Citadel.
Yeah, basically,
the
Rick goes back to being a violent terrorist. Okay, so what do we
Do you remember that for the first episode? Whenever they're, like, at the intergalactic airport, and he's got the, what are the pods called shoved up his ass?
The Mega Seeds.
The Mega Seeds.
Yeah, we got to call back to that this episode, too.
Yeah.
Oh, was there? What was the callback?
Yeah.
The Mega Seed forest where they farming them.
That was the.
I ain't commit to this I commit to this rural patois.
All right, two things before we wrap this up. One, what are your all scores? Are you all 10s or?
10.
It was a 10. It's just way too deep, way #deep of an episode. Lots of heavy shit, but also really entertaining, and wow.
Just like, yeah, one of the best things you can ask for.
And advances the larger plots. I like that.
And
fuck hashtags, Greg.
So here's the other question: the one thing that we've not talked about, the creepy Morty.
That was weird.
Oh jeez! Looking for a fun time?
Is that for Mortys who are just so desperate for sex that they, like, fuck other Mortys? Is that for, like...
I don't think they do that for that.
Ricks? Because, like, everything I saw in the fucking episode led me to believe that it's Mortys, like, fucking other Mortys.
No, there wasn't.
There weren't any other Ricks there.
It didn't seem. It didn't seem sexual.
There was, like, the crack Rick with the portal gun fluid.
It was just like it was more like, oh yeah, let's just have fun. I'm a cowboy. Let's play cowboy together. Like I don't know.
I don't think that's what they were going for.
It was on like a stripper pole.
I know, but like. Why would Mortys want to have sex with other Mortys? Like,
did you see the fucking picture in the background, motherfucker? Did you see the disturbingly come hither fucking painting in the fucking background of Morty?
That was weird.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I missed that.
Yeah, that was some, like, creepy fucking strip club vibe bullshit. So it just, like, clearly there was something sexual going on there, and I'm just like, I guess, like, is that what that one Morty was referring to? It's like, I wish incest porn was more accessible. Like, I assumed he was thinking about Summer, but I'm not sure now.
Oh my god. This society's so fucked up.
Interdimensional like orgy with himself. Is that only some of the Mortys? Like, is that just the specific Mortys that are like find that specific?
I don't remember there being any clients in the club though, which is weird.
Well, there's that little bit Morty. He's like, "Oh, I'll give you one dance for 10, and I'll give you 2 dances for 25."
Yeah, plus there was that one Morty who was like sitting there while the other one was just like flailing around.
Yeah, okay.
Midnight Cowboy Morty.
God.
Yeah, that's not something you wanted to think about, was it?
That whole scene was great because it touched the line, but it didn't quite go over it.
It just
but
makes you think, like, how deep did they really think about this whole society?
Did the cop Morty say, "Just don't think about it. It is what it is."
Just don't think about it too hard.
Morty's killing Mortys, Rick killing Mortys. Same old story.
I think Morty Cop was like my favorite character for the whole episode, hands down.
Do you want to see how I paint a wall?
I feel so bad for him.
All right, so what are we gonna shill? What is like the most appropriate sci-fi thing that we could come up with? Like, I'm half tempted to like go for like Gattaca or Brave New World or something like that.
I was tempted to shell either Kit Kats or Pepperidge Farms.
Why?
The Pepperidge Farms for their fucking commercials. The Kit Kat because it kind of looked like a wafer cookie. The simple Rick wafer cookie.
I thought it was, it's a wafer cookie. It was also almost like a Milano or something, like Pepperidge Farm Milano.
Yeah, Pepperidge Farm was like, Pepperidge Farm remembers, just like the simple Rick.
Oh, yeah.
It's a hard choice. I think I'm going to lean towards the Pepperidge Farm because that's obviously what the inspiration goes for. Because, obviously we cannot, like, suck out feelings of triumph. We can't, like, get little oodles of, like, Mark Zuckerberg's feeling of, like, getting billions of dollars, or we can't have those. We like to think that we can have the simple joys of emotional attachment by buying Coca-Cola, or so they like us to believe. But you can pretend to have the simple enjoyments of Simple Rick's enjoyment of Beth by the Pepperidge Farm, which was obviously being parodied by in this episode of Rick and Morty.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you can, like, color it with, like, pink dye and, like, maybe some pink frosting, and then you can, like, make the Pepperidge Farm cookie look like the wafer cookie from, like, the Simple Rick's, and you can go to, like, conventions and pull it out and say, would you like a Simple Rick's? It is the recipe of, Simple Rick enjoying his daughter's company.
And you can have ingrained...
It was the brain juice, like, extracted from his brain. That was weird.
You can have this review ingrained in that cookie. The memory of this review ingrained in that cookie while you eat it. Just for the better experience of eating it.
Yeah. So hopefully, go get that Pepperidge Farm up there, down there in the Amazon link. Go get yourself some Pepperidge Farm or get something else that you actually want. All right, so it is late and I need to get up and Zavel has to get up and sleepy fun times. Thank you for hanging around with us for another belated episode review of Rick and Morty. This is going to be a difficult episode to top next week. I don't know. This whole season's been strong, though. I think I've enjoyed every episode except for like the Vindicators, but even that was still fun.
Yeah.
It's been a good season so far.
Yeah, the Vindicators was this season's Get Swifty.
Yeah,
I like to get swifted.
I hope they don't.
It had more meme value.
I hope they don't try and, overtop themselves, too much. Like, they're trying to set the bar too high for themselves.
The bar is so fucking high, though. Jesus Christ. I just don't know. Well, hopefully the next return of interdimensional TV, version 3.0 will also be an amazing episode. I'm sure there'll be plenty of memes. So thank you for spending the time to listen to these us schmoes discuss Rick and Morty, your favorite show. While other reviewers might have the professional production values and not shitty microphones, we have the simple values of Simple Rick. So send us a like, comment, and subscribe, all that good shit. And remember, lobster's antennas, but don't you grab it. Lobster's made of lights.